welcome back to part 2 of our Deco Mesh Wreaths. We are making these for our Food for Family giveaway, and I'm excited today to demonstrate how we're actually going to put the wreath together. Now, if you missed part 1 of this video series, it was very helpful. We went over the type of wreath form you need, the type of ribbons that you need, and how to coordinate the colors. And we also talked about the prep work that you need to do before you actually start putting your wreath together. So if you haven't had a chance to watch part 1, I linked the video down in the description, so you can just click and go and watch that one. Now, for those who are prepped and ready, let's go ahead and get started. I just want to review real quickly the items that you'll need to make sure you have everything. First, you're going to need your wreath form. You're going to need your 2 Deco Mesh ribbons, the 10-inch and the 6-inch. You're also going to need 4 ribbons cut to 12 inches each and dovetailed on both sides. And lastly, if you choose to add picks to your wreath, you'll need those and zip ties in order to put them on your wreath. So we've got everything. Let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, I have on my table my wreath form, and the first thing you're going to need to do is kind of get it set up. So I like to open it up, all of the things. And then each one of them, just kind of pull it apart. You don't need to flatten it out completely, just apart enough that it's easier to work with when it comes time. Alrighty, once you have your ties all open, you're going to take your 10-inch Deco Mesh Wreath and open up the package. Now you can kind of see what it looks like there. Now I'm actually going to let this fall on the floor here at my feet, and it makes it a little easier to work with. I'm going to move this over to the side a bit so you can see this part. Now, I'm going to flip it over because I like this side of the Deco Mesh a little better. And what you're going to do to start is just pleat it in your hand, kind of gather it up like so. And now, some people like to do the top part of the wreath first and then the bottom second. I typically start on the bottom and work my way to the top, but it's a preference. Whichever way you want to do it is fine. So the first thing you'll do is lay your little pinched up piece here at the base of one of the ties, and then just take your tie and twist it. I usually twist about twice to get it nice and tight in there. Then you're going to gather your mesh up. And to measure it, I usually kind of just go across my wreath until I get to about the second tie over, and that gives you about 10 inches, and that's going to make a nice size poof. So you see, I'm going to gather it back up again and come into the next tie and do the same thing, just twist twice. Now this little piece here is called a poof. So you're going to just kind of make your poof look nice. Then you'll come out to the next one, gather it up. If you'll measure about 2, pull it in, put it in the tie, and twist. Again, my mesh has gotten all tangled down here. Sorry, hold on just a second. There we go. Sorry about that. again, you can measure around to the middle, about 10 inches, gather it up, and the next one, push it in there, and twist. Now, I have found in all of the wreaths that I do, that if you don't get exactly the same amount, it's okay. As long as you're relatively close, you're fine. This particular mesh likes to stick to itself, so it's being a little bit more aggravating. Just keep turning the wreath, gathering it up, stick it in, and twist. Gather it up, stick it in, and twist. I'm getting close to the beginning, the first one I did, so I'm going to show you how to move up or down if you're going from the top to the bottom. It's the same procedure. Now you see I've gotten back to the beginning. This one has, move this out of the way so you can see, this one has the little tie here where we started, so we won't go back into this one. Instead, we're going to cross over and come up one past where you were. You don't want to go directly over your poof, will look funny. So come one past it, same thing, take about the same amount, come up one past it, and get it in there, and twist. And then here on the top, you do the exact same thing that you did on the bottom. Come out about 10 inches, stick it in there. This particular Deco Mesh likes to grab itself more than some of the others that I've used in the past, so it's a little bit more aggravating, but still the same concept. Careful when you twist that you don't twist another tie into it or it'll be aggravating later. About 10 inches. Now, if you watched the first video and we talked about the color of these ties needing to match, now you can kind of see why. This particular mesh is a little bit more see-through than some of the other meshes that I've used. You can kind of really see through it here. So it's definitely more transparent, and you can definitely see these ties even more in this particular mesh. But that's okay, they blend and they match, so it doesn't really matter. We got a little storm going on here today, so the power just went out. But it's back on, thank goodness. Poof, twist. There we go. And we are back around to the beginning. The way you end it is by making another poof, untying this one, put it in, and tie both of them together. Then you're going to take your scissors and just cut off the end. Being very careful that you don't accidentally cut a poof that's around it. There we go. So that's the first step. As you can see, you can go back and kind of fluff out your poofs, move them around to make them the way you want them to look. Tuck them this way and that. Pull this one out. I'm having to do a little bit more of that with this particular mesh, just because the edges here, they have a grippy thing here on the edge, and it's gripping a little bit more. But that's very pretty. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 6-inch pieces and put them into a wreath. Now there are 2 styles that you can do this. You can take the Deco Mesh and just gather it up in the middle. So when you put it into the wreath, and I'll put it in right here, you're just going to untwist, lay it in there, and twist it back. And so there you have just a little bit of the sparkle and a little added material there on the end. That's one way you can do it. The other way is to make a curl. And to make a curl, you're just going to take your Deco Mesh and just make it just like it was on the roll. It's harder to do. It's easy to do on the table, but a little harder to do here in my hand. Because you're going to roll it up, pinch it here in the middle, and then there's that one. So I'm going to put this one right next to it. So you can kind of see the difference. See, this one is coming out and filling a lot more space, where this one is a little bit more closer in, and it has a little bit of a curly cue. I'm gonna raise it up a little so you can kind of see that, the 2 differences. I like both, so either way you want to do. Most wreaths are either one or the other. I haven't seen very many where they mix the 2 styles, but you could if you wanted to. Again, this is all self-expression and just however you want to do it. But I think I'm going to stick with this just because this mesh is see-through. I think I need a little bit more volume than the little curl gives me. So I think I'm going to go with the just the other style where you do it like a bow, like so. Now what you'll do is take all 18, you're just going to go one at a time around your wreath and stick them in. So there's the first 2. Grab the next one. Kind of pinch it together here in the middle. Find your next little tie. Push it in and tie it back. Trying to keep count of where you are is probably the hardest part. I love this ribbon. It has a nice little iridescent. It's got a lot of colors in it, so it makes it really, really colorful and sparkly. You know, us girls, we like some sparkle in our life. I have learned one other trick, I'll tell you. If you tie your ties the same direction every time, it makes them easier to know which way to go when you're tying and untying them. First wreath I made, I went left one time and right one time, and I spent more time trying to figure out which way the tie came untied than I did putting the wreath together. has one. I think I have all the ones across the top. I'll double check. Oh, here's one I missed. It's always good to go back around whatever layer you're on, top or bottom, when you're doing this, and just check, because it is a lot easier to find your missing one when you're doing them one row at a time than it is to try to figure out, okay, on the whole wreath, I'm short one. Where is it? So again, just pinch it together. And you can see this is kind of a messy pinch. It's not anything in particularly, do it on the side so you guys can see. It's not, you know, precise or anything like that. You just kind of scrunch it up in the middle a little bit. Ooh, I knocked all my ribbon down. I will have to say I do envy some of the crafters I have been watching this past week who have the fancy cameras put up on the ceiling so that they can do this easier. Mine's actually on my wreath holder hanging from my camera holder so that you guys can see everything far enough away you could see the whole process. It's kind of nuts, but it's working, so we're going to go with it. Sorry, every time I move my mat, I keep knocking at the camera. This particular style of wreath is not difficult to do, but it is a little time consuming because you have 18 of these to do each time. And as you get a little, if you make these on a regular basis, you can get to where you put this in and your ribbons at the same time, which saves a little time. But I wanted to show it to you the way I learned it, and so it would make sense and be less complicated. All right, 3 more. So forgive me if I come off camera. It's awkward to work on the back side of your project. One. Here's one. All right, I've got one left over. And I found my missing tie. Believe it or not, it is kind of easy to miss them. Especially when everything's pretty much the same color in this one. Everything's kind of white and silver right now. Alrighty. Now, there we go. We've got the thing, and you'll notice they have little strings. You can kind of just come through and pull at them. That's just part of Deco Mesh. So there we go. So you can kind of see the beginning part of it. Starting to look really nice. Pull that string off. Very nice. Now the next part we do is our ribbons. And I'm going to set this aside and pull my ribbons over so you can kind of look. Turn them over so you can see the right side. If you remember from part 1, I chose this interesting green and silver that I thought was so pretty. And I have 2 of them that are 2.5 inches. You can do 2 or 2.5. as I said in the first video, and I have 2 that are 1.5. And what you're going to want to do is pair these together, because you'll put 2 of them in each one of your tie. So kind of look at them and decide which 2 you want to go together. This one is a busy print, and this is a little more understated. This one's a little understated, and this one's kind of busy. And my preference, this is my preference, you do it how you want to, but my preference is to put something that's busy with something that's not as busy. Something that's not as busy with something that's a little busier. It just helps to bring, what's the word I'm looking for? Balance. There we go. It helps to bring a little balance to me, to the thing. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these 2 together. I'm going to set them off to the side. And I'm going to put these 2 together. All right, so let's pull our wreath back over. Lay it down. And again, you can start on the top ring or the bottom ring. It does not matter. And what you'll do is grab your two ribbons that you're going to put together. You're going to lay them on top of one another and then fold them in half so you can kind of get the middle. Once you get the middle, just like you did the other ribbon, you're going to kind of pinch it together, and then you'll open up a tie, push it down in there, and tie it back. Now this is the last thing that will go into the ties, so make sure it's good and tight, and then you're going to take your ribbons on each end and kind of pull them apart, pulling them opposite directions, and you kind of fluff and thing. I usually buy a wired ribbon, and I did not mention that in the first video, only because it's not necessary for this type of wreath, but it does help to, when you want to go to shape the ribbons a little bit more to me. So you start with this one. I did the Merriam Bright and this silver, so the next one I'm going to do is this plaid with the glittery. And if yours has a double side, make sure both are facing up. Put them together, make sure they're about the same length. Fold them in half to get the middle, and then scrunch. Now, if you're pretty good at you know, measuring where the middle is, you don't have to fold them in half. That's just a little trick to learn where the middle is. Open it up, stick it in, and then tighten your thing, and then pull them apart. I just go back and forth with mine. I do the, like for this one, Merriam Bright and then the plaid. So now I'm doing another Merriam Bright in the next one. Stick it in there. Pull it apart. Some of them you will see really well. Some of them might be hidden a little in the mesh. That's okay. The next 2. I've watched a lot of these Deco Mesh Wreath tutorials online over the last few months, and I found that after a little bit they get a little monotonous because it's the exact same thing over and over. So feel free to fast forward. If you want to, I will not be offended. Mainly because I'll never know if you did or not. But I know this gets a little monotonous watching me do each one over and over. My ribbons don't want to come up today. I did have someone ask me, can you just twist them in without having to untwist each of the ties before you put it in? And yes, most of these ties, if you buy them a quality wreath, the ties are typically long enough that you can do that. I just prefer to have them all pretty much at the same level, so I like to untie and retie them. See how that nice pretty pop of green is really standing out now? Go, and I got one in each one of the top ones, so I'll start on the bottom. Usually when I start the bottom, I try to find the coordinating ribbon and always kind of maybe go either to the left or to the right and then work my way around. It kind of helps to keep them separated. Everyone see what I'm doing? I hope so. There's that one. This is the next one. I plan to leave this video in real time so you can kind of get an idea from watching the video about how long this takes. It's not a difficult process, it's just a tedious process because you're basically doing the same thing over and over and over. But we're getting close to being done with this part. So if you watch this video before you come to the craft night, you will have a little bit of an understanding of what we're going to do in that demonstration. You may not even need to watch the demonstration. I have knocked everything off my table. Every time I move this wreath, things go flying. Down the last three, and there we go. I missed a tie over here. Move your wreath around a lot to keep it on the video. I think that's why I'm missing ties. It's a little easier to do it when you're doing it. There it is. Oops, wrong way. There we go. There's another one. Oh, that one. And here's the last one. Alrighty. My last one. Sorry everything's not on camera, especially since I keep dropping them on the ground. Okay. All right. Now we have all of the ribbons put in, and this is where you can take and come back using the wired ribbon and fluff it, pull the colored ones out a little more so you can see them a little better kind of pull them to the forefront. Makes it a little easier to see. Do a little fluffing here and there, as they do tend to get a little mashed when you're moving them around. Okay, so that's that's the base part of it. You could stop here. It's a beautiful wreath just as it is, but we're going to go ahead and add some of these picks in to the ribbon, and I think I'm going to change camera angles to do this. I think it will be easier, so stay tuned. All right, I'm going to have to lean over a little in order to be seen, but the last section of our wreath is putting on the picks, and so I kind of changed views to hopefully this will help make this a little easier. I'll try to zoom in as I can to do this. So we'll give it a go and see how well this works. So here is the wreath that we just finished. You can see the nice pretty greens all in there, and the silvers and white. Turned out really pretty. It's really nice in person. So we're going to add the darker color picks first. And what I like to do usually is think of a triangle across my wreath, and I do one type in a triangle and then the other style in the same triangle, just so it kind of spreads it out evenly around the wreath. So I like to put all of mine in and just kind of look at it to see if it looks balanced and even, and if things are situated in an area that can be seen and look nice. So I'm going to start there with my eucalyptus things, and basically you just stick it down through the ribbons. You can kind of see there's that one. So my triangle would come here next, so right about here, stick it in, and then my triangle would come up here, the next one. And sometimes you kind of have to just work your way around to find where it is. Now see, I've got these three elements in here, and these two are too close together, so I need to move this one this way just a little bit. This is one of the reasons I don't put them on until I see it. So there, that looks better. Then I'll do the same thing with my other picks, filling in the spaces here and there. That need to go in. So here's the first one on this side. So I'm going to take this one, poke it in. Sometimes you have to move the Deco Mesh base around a little in order to get it pushed in somewhere you want it. So there we go. And then the last one. Now I think I want to go a little farther this way. Can go in there. And I kind of stand back and take a look at it. There we go, I'll lift it up. And you can kind of see, I know it's a little harder to see. Bring it up a little closer. Kind of get a look at it. This white was a little harder to do on the video, I can tell. So once you get them placed where you like them, and to be honest with you, I am not wild about these. For some reason, they're just not working for me. I'm gonna take them out. And that's part of what you can do. I do have these pine cones, so I'm gonna give those a try and see how I like these. I was planning on putting all three of these as a kind of like a bow, but because I don't like the others, I want these to be a little closer to the top. Here we go. I'm going to try this. This sometimes is a trial and error type thing. There's the last one. So right about here. Okay, yeah, I like that better. Seems to blend better. The others seem to clash with the style, I think. Okay, so So once you decide where you want to put your elements, the next thing you're going to do is zip tie them. Now the easiest way to do this is to flip the whole thing over. And I know you think, oh no, it's going to smash the ribbons. And it will a little bit, but remember they're wired ribbons, and so you can fluff them back up. The Deco Mesh, it will pop right back into place. It's very resilient in that way. The only caution I give you is as you flip it over, sometimes things kind of come loose or fall out, so just kind of be gentle as you flip yours over. If you don't want to flip it completely over, you can just lift it up and work from the back, but typically that takes more than one hand, and I only have one hand today. So I'm going to take mine and kind of flip it over. And once you get it flipped over, you can see all of the little picks that are sticking out, and that makes this easy. So what you're going to do is take your zip tie, find where your pick is, and what you're going to do is just zip tie your pick to one of these white wires. Mine are white, yours may be green or red, depending on which kind of wreath you bought. But you're going to zip tie the wire, the pick to the wire. Now I will caution you with zip ties, make sure you have it right where you want it before you tighten them, because once you tighten them, they're done. They don't come undone. It's one of the nice things about zip ties. So make sure you hold your pick firmly in place, and then maybe use your nail to pull it down, and make sure you've got it nice and firm against it. I have two sizes of zip ties. Sometimes thinner picks, if they have a really thin base, they do better with a smaller tie. So these little white pine cones, I'm going to use this smaller zip tie. Yeah, I'm just going to come up and come around. And I know y'all can't see this real well in this video. I am sorry about that. When we demonstrate it that night, I promise you'll be able to see a little better. And zip ties do have a directional, so if you get it on there and it's hard to push the tie through the end of it, flip it around. Remember to hold your pick firmly in place, and then just pull it tight. And you'll just do that for each element that you have that you stuck on your wreath. Nice and tight. Have a green one. It's right here. Make sure you pull it, when you flip it over this way, gravity tends to pull them back away from the wreath itself. So make sure you pull them tightly back up. I put it on backwards, sorry, hold on just a second. Tightly back up to the wreath. So pull it up so that it's snug inside your wreath. Did I put it on backwards again? I did. Silly me. Goodness. Too busy talking and not paying attention to what I'm doing. Okay. Put it in. And I usually get it started. This one is being very aggravating. There we go. And then I usually, at the last minute, pull it tight. And then finish tying my zip tie. There we go. Two more. Sometimes you have to look around and see if you can find. Oh, I never took the tag off my thing. Here's one. Pull it around. These little zip ties are a lot harder to use, in my opinion. Something about men, they just can seem to do this. My husband put these together so fast. this one just does not want to seem to go in there. And I know I'm doing it front to back. Okay, let me try one more time. If it doesn't work, then we'll get a different one. Okay, we're getting a different one. Sorry about that. Every now and then you'll get a zip tie that just will not go through the little notch, no matter what you do. So, just get another one and keep moving. That's why I suggested bringing a few extras. You just never know when you're going to end up with a zip tie that does not work correctly. Or maybe two. I think it's more the angle. I'm going to come around to the side. Sorry, just a second. Now I've lost where it is. Here it is. Maybe just trying to work at that odd angle. Or maybe it's the zip tie itself. There we go. Finally. All right, pull it toward it and tie. Whew. I think I'm going to use one of the big ones for this last pine cone. It will be easier. All right, 1, 2, so it's going to be right over here somewhere. There it is, kind of hidden in all the mesh. Sometimes you may have to pull it back out in order to get it to come to where you need it to be. All right. Make sure you go around the wire. And I'm actually having to go through my mesh because there's so much of it. All right, pull it in and zip tie. Now once you finish, you can take some wire cutters or a pair of scissors and clip off the ends of these zip ties. You noticed I use a clear white zip tie, so if it doesn't come off completely, these scissors are not going to cut it. And I don't have my wire cutter, so I'm sorry, but you won't see them. So pull it back up, fluff it some, and kind of rearrange your picks a little bit and have a little bit of momentum. Just one thing, don't pull because the picks will come out if you pull on them, and then you've lost your zip tie and have to start over again. So it takes just a minute and kind of refluff your ribbons again, and there you go. Your wreath is complete. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was informative for you and kind of gave you an idea before we get together in November. If you have any questions, please leave comments down in the bottom, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Have a great day.